Hi everyone, welcome to Forbes Flash. I'm here to talk about some of the biggest news from this past week. Without further ado, let's get going. It was all about Apple this week, as the tech giant hosted an event in Cupertino. The big news? The launch of its Apple TV Plus video subscription service, announced by some folks you may have heard of before. Oprah and Steven Spielberg were just a few of the celebs in attendance. They were there to discuss upcoming projects they're working on with Apple, who says partnering with the most accomplished storytellers will help define TV Plus as a home for quality entertainment. According to Oprah, working with Tim Cook & Co. has allowed her to take her skill for connecting people to a whole new level, because, quote, they have $1 billion pockets, y'all. The service is set to launch sometime this fall, and pricing has not yet been announced. It'll be available through an updated version of the Apple TV app that's conveniently already on millions of iPhones, iPads, and Apple TV streaming devices. Will the billion Apple devices around the world give the company's streaming service an edge over more established rivals like Netflix? We'll have to wait and see. On another note, Apple and fellow tech giants like Facebook, Google, and Microsoft are apparently being bombarded with requests from law enforcement agencies around the world to share customer data. Sound major? That's because it is. The requests apparently come in at a level of thousands per week and range from online fraud to terrorist organizations. One global technology company was presented with a demand to hand over the names and addresses of 58 million users of a single app by a government trying to trace a suspected terrorist cell plotting a suicide bomb attack. The request was rejected. Security experts working for these big tech companies are learning when and how to push back on these requests to protect customer information whenever possible. For now, definitely something to keep an eye on. Next up, a story that was all over social media this week. The announcement that NASA has canceled the first all-female spacewalk planned for later this week. The reason? That NASA doesn't have enough spacesuits to fit the 2 astronauts who were supposed to go outside the International Space Station. Despite cries of gender discrimination, it turns out that the decision was a matter of safety. Here's the context. When Anne McClain took her first spacewalk on March 22nd, she discovered that the spacesuit torso size she was training in didn't actually fit her in space. Turns out that astronauts' bodies stretch in space due to lack of gravity, so last-minute adjustments are sometimes needed. Who knew? So McClain and fellow astronaut Christina Koch would both need to wear the same size suit, and only one was available for use. Thus NASA's decision to split up the women, who will still both be spacewalking, just not together. And for those of you asking, why can't we just order another size suit? The spacesuits in question, called extravehicular mobility units, are 40 years old and not easily adjusted. NASA spent nearly $200 million developing them, and they need to be shipped to the ground periodically for repairs and maintenance, which is why 2-size mediums aren't available for use right now. So long story short, the decision made this week was all about time and cost efficiency, rather than the purposeful delay of a milestone. And don't worry, the all-female spacewalk will happen sooner than later. Half of NASA's newest astronaut groups are women. And last but not least, an exciting announcement that Howard Schultz, former chairman and CEO of Starbucks, is the first guest on Steve Forbes' new podcast, What's Ahead? It debuts this weekend on March 31st. Schultz, in his most extensive interview yet, talks about how his childhood shaped his worldview and his potential run for president in 2020. You can find the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Google. That's all for this week. Thanks for watching, and let me know which story you liked best using #ForbesFlash. See you next time.